Welcome pilots to Math and Mech number 6, Probability. Crate Rush Probabilities explained in about 20 minutes. It's worth the wait, it's worth the watch. For more than one reason, which you'll find out towards the end of the video, so stick around. People in general have a bad intuition about how probability works. And I'm not picking on anyone, it just seems to be how we're wired as humans. Unless you've studied this stuff, you're probably doing it wrong or thinking about it wrong. Probably. See what I did there? Now, I want to go over a few examples of where most people's intuition goes wrong, and it's kind of fun. Feel free to Google the full description. If you want, just leave a comment, ask me to do a deeper dive into the explanation, and if enough people ask, I will, including going over binomial expansion and distribution. Starting with the Monty Hall problem. Monty Hall was a hometown hero, fellow Winnipegger. The game show goes like this. The contestant gets to pick from one of 3 doors. One has the jackpot, usually a brand new car. The other 2 prizes, the other 2 doors, have a goat as a prize. And I don't see what's wrong with getting a goat, but apparently it's a bad thing. The contestant, you, picks a door. Monty Hall says, well, check out what's behind door number whatever, and he reveals a door that has a goat behind it. The question is, do you trade doors? Do you take your unknown door for the other unknown door? The pressure's on. What do you do? Now, anyone that's heard this problem knows that you're supposed to trade no matter what, because trading doubles your chances of winning. It's not 50-50 that it's your door or the other door. It's actually going from 1/3 chance of winning to 2/3 chance of winning. Actually, that's kind of all the math right there, but it's not intuitive. And most people, they can't get their head around it. Birthday paradox. How many people do you need in a room to have a better than 50% chance that 2 people, at least 2 people, share the same birthday? Well, there's 365 days in the year, so half of that would be, I don't know, like 180 something, 182, give or take. The answer is 23. If you haven't heard this one before, you're probably going, no, Chef, that's wrong. There's no way that a group of 23 people, in a group of 23 people, is a 50-50 chance that 2 people share a birthday. Yeah. And the math checks out, go figure. Gambler's fallacy, number 3. So here we are flipping a coin, and there's no trickery. You flip a coin and you get heads 5 times in a row. 5 times in a row, that's crazy. What are the odds that the next flip will be heads? Well, getting 6 heads in a row is 1 in 64. But that's not the right answer. The right answer is it's still 50-50. The coin doesn't have a memory. The coin doesn't have a brain. It better not have a brain. Someone's got some explaining to do. Yeah, this is what we call an independent trial. It has nothing to do with the previous ones. Now, if you want to know the chances of getting 6 heads in a row, and you're predicting all 6 in a row, that's not independent trials. Those are dependent on the previous one. But if you've done the 5 already, and you walk up and say, what are the chances of the next one being heads? Has nothing to do with the previous ones. And it comes down to the definition. It depends on the specific question you're asking. Because the next one by itself is different than all of them being heads. 2 very, very different questions. And finally, and this one I'll show a bunch of math on screen, the false positive paradox, also known as the base rate fallacy. We have a disease that hits 1% of a population, and the only test has a 95% accuracy, and the other 5% are wrong. Now, unfortunately, you test positive. What are the odds that you actually have the disease? 95%, right? You're doomed to whatever the disease is. Well, let's do the math. Let's say we have a population of 100,000 people. 1% of 100,000 is 1,000. And of those 1,000 people, 950 are going to test positive, which is the right result. Of the remaining 99,000 people, and that 95% accuracy test, 4,950 people are going to have a false positive. So when you look at the probability, the chances that you actually do have the disease, it's the 950 of the positive tests of the 1,000 people that actually have it, divided by that 950 plus the false positives, which is 4,950, which brings it down to 16.1%. Not 95, 16.1. That's a significant difference. And this, my friends, is why you shouldn't trust statisticians. You shouldn't trust statistics when they're presented anywhere unless all of the information is also included. If people bring up probability without bringing up the raw numbers, they're probably lying. If people bring up raw numbers percentages. If people bring up raw numbers with the percentages, that's probably good. If they bring up the raw numbers without percentages, that's bad. If they bring up percentages without the raw numbers, that's also bad. Okay, now that we know people in general are bad at all of this, and they're probably bad at it. See what I did there? People are probably bad at probability. I'm hilarious. Okay, I'll break it all down and make it applicable to Crate Rush. First, we need two more definitions. What is probability? It's the likelihood of an event happening. And it's usually expressed as a decimal from 0 to 1, a fraction, or a percentage. 50-50 for a coin, the percentage 50%, seems natural. For a dice, rolling up 5 on a 6-sided dice is 1 in 6, 1/6. Seems like a really natural way to represent it. But it's all the same thing. And the interesting thing is the probability of an event happening is usually easiest calculated as you take the whole set of possible outcomes and you remove the bad outcomes, and that leaves the good ones. As my hands disappear. This is really important later on, because without calculating probabilities in terms of 1 minus the bad events or the failed events, you can go down some bad math conclusions. What is fair? Now, I don't like the word fair outside of probability. In my world, something is fair when all outcomes are equally likely and no side has an inherent advantage. So like more skill, better stats, better gear, more riz, etc. This is why I don't like using the word fair to describe matchmaking. Now, I know that everyone uses it to basically mean balanced or actually had a chance of winning, something like that. But for a match to be mathematically fair, the hangers would have to be identical. You'd have to have identical teammates. The teammates would have to be spawning the mechs with the same equipment in the same order. Everyone has identical skill, strategy, tactics, communication, connection, computers, etc. So is it ever really fair? Or is it, balanced and you have a chance? Even games like chess and Go that are pure skill, going first has an advantage. So even chess and Go aren't fair. In chess, white goes first, has an advantage. Back when I was playing regular chess, white's advantage was usually considered to be half a point, like a half a pawn's worth an advantage. And apparently the online chess community agrees that it's around 55% win rate for white. depending on the platform. And in Go, black goes first, and to balance that advantage, white is given Comey of 6.5 or 7.5 points, depending on the country's format. The half point is to prevent ties. Apparently 7 would be perfectly balanced, but to force a winner, that extra half point is added. Related to all of this is all outcomes being equally likely. A coin is fair if flipping each side occurs with the same frequency. And I'm ignoring weird cases like the coin landing on its edge or birds swooping in and grabbing the coin in midair. A 6-sided dice, a die if you will, is fair if each of the 6 results is equally likely. Now, and to test this, I'm not going to go into the math, but there's this thing called a chi-square test or a chi-square test if you're a total heathen. I hate the name because it should be he, but whatever. Or you can use like a Bayesian method or whatever, but like OG math nerds are all about the chi-squares. Oh yeah, OG math nerds represent. In general, the minimum number of trials should be at least 5 per possible result. 10 is better, infinity is best. And that's where that law of big numbers comes in. The more times you do a test and the more even the distribution, the more confident you can be that the thing is fair. Don't worry, I'm not going to go into any detail about the rest of this because it's not relevant to Mech Arena. I just want to make sure we're using the right words to describe things because definitions matter. If you do want the gory details, like the Bayesian stuff or the binomial distribution, let me know. If enough people ask, I will make a post or a video on it. Yes, homework. Oh, there's homework in today's video. And trust me, the payoff is well worth it. Where was I going with this? Yeah, crate rushes. There's a giant wasp in the area. Okay, there's basically 3 types of crate rushes. One, there's an even chance of all 20 chests, 5% per chest, and this is fair, mathematically fair, and has a fixed maximum cost, usually 7,000 Acoins or 600,000 credits. And since we normally get 1 to 2 free spins from events, these are sometimes really good. I'll get to evaluating if it actually is worth doing in just a few minutes. The second type is an uneven chance. This is typically where we have the jackpot is around 1% and the rest are, more than 1%. This is not fair because all outcomes are not equally likely, but it does have a fixed maximum cost, usually $100 US, and this is typically how new items are released to the game, so day 1 launch. If we're lucky, we get a free token somewhere like we did with Onslaught and for Tailsting. And a bunch of lucky people got it in that one spin. Some people took the 14. In this case, there were 14 possible rewards. And even on my second last spin, the chance of me getting the Tailsting was really, really low. I think it might have been as high as 2%. Yeah. Again, this is not fair mathematically, but at least the price to get the reward is fixed. Like there's a fixed number of spins before you get it. And finally, the most gacha of them all, the ones with infinite prizes, usually 50 Acoins per spin. Not fair. Not fair mathematically, not fair morally. Shame on plarium. Shame. There is no fixed maximum number of spins to guarantee getting the main prize. Now, I like my cosmetics, and I make Lambo money being a world famous YouTuber. And I also get insane appearance fees as a celebrity esports pro gamer. So I'm willing to spend a few thousand Acoins on these events if I think the skins are really cool. But what are the actual chances? It's typically around 1% chance to win the grand prize. So what happens with 1,000 spins? Using the binomial theorem, link above, maybe in the description, Again, I'm not going into it today. Leave a comment if you really want me to, and I'll strongly consider it. 1% chance, 100 tries to get one success is 36.973%. But that's wrong. We need to look at the total number of combinations, because in there are, because of the way the binomial distribution works, even though there's only one jackpot, in that expansion, we see 2 jackpots being awarded, and 3, and 4, and 5, and 6. So the real way to calculate this is all the possible spins minus the chance of getting no jackpots, which leaves a bunch of different ways to get the jackpot. Now, of course, there's only one real way, and it's the first time you get it. But the math gets weird when you apply it wrong. So the chance of 0 successes is 36.603, which means there's a 63.397% chance of getting the jackpot for your 5,000 Acoins invested. If you do 10,000 Acoins, you get 200 spins, which is an 86.6% chance. It's only 86% for 10,000 Acoins. I think it becomes basically guaranteed after 400. It's something like that. And someone's going to want to know where that break even, where that 50-50 is. And it's at 69 Lambo. Yes, 3,450 Acoins gives you a 50-50 chance of getting that 1% prize. Now, this doesn't include the chances of the main prize going down as you win the other non-infinite prizes. And if next time you're doing one of these events, take a look at how the probabilities change as you get different awards. Now, unless it changes, because the last few times I looked, that's how it worked. So how do you apply this? For the fair crate rushes, the real questions you have to ask yourself: do I really want the item? Is it actually better value than in GearHub if it's available? And the most important question, can you afford to do all the possible spins to guarantee winning the prize? If the answer to any of these questions is no, why are you even considering spinning? If you're getting 1 to 2 free spins from events, good luck. But for especially bad items where the spins cost Acoins, I sometimes let those tokens get converted. You can click on the information button to see if it's just credits or Acoins and credits, whatever the conversion is. If I think the item might be fun to use in a custom thing with BMP, I'll spin it, but I've let a few items, tokens for items, get converted. Now, to evaluate the cost, because we're looking at what you're risking for the reward. If you look at the worst possible scenario, second worst case, because worst case is always zombie apocalypse. So second worst case scenario is maximum spins to get the grand prize. So in Crate Rush, the items usually start at rank 4, and in GearHub it starts at rank 5. So you take the price of all the spins in GearHub plus the cost to upgrade, including the value of the credits and including the value of the blueprints. If it's still cheaper, and it usually is, cheaper than GearHub, then it's a good value. Now, in case anyone didn't know, for legendaries, the upgrade cost to go from rank 4 to rank 5 is 265,000 credits, 2,825 Acoins, and 10 blueprints. The credits and blueprints are the same for the weapons. 10 energy take 1,575 Acoins, 12 energy takes 1,875 Acoins, and 16 energy takes 2,500 Acoins. Also, the bonus crate rush that shows up after you win the main prize gives you access to some very, very cheap blueprints. So if you need them, this is really good value. And for blueprints, it takes 10 to go from rank 4 to 5, takes 19 to go from 5 to 6, and 75 to go from rank 6 to max. And again, this is for legendaries. Legendary blueprints cost 248 coins each. And this only matters if you don't already have enough blueprints, or if you don't have the patience to get them from just opening chests naturally, chests and crates. The fair crate rushes have a flat cumulative 5% per spin. So 4 spins, 20% chance of getting the item. 10 spins, 50%, and so on. And this is what's called probability without replacement. And here's a link to a random website with probability without replacement. And now as I was going through a couple of sites, this one struck me as bad, because at a glance I saw there was at least one mistake in the 5 questions in the answers. So I'm going to leave it to you to go through those 5 questions to let me know which ones, if any, there's at least one, have an error in the answer. First person to post the full explanation of the error and why it's wrong, or what happened, gets a bonus entry for the Acoin draw that's happening in 2 weeks. And here's the secret bonus announcement. Anyone that has won a bonus entry into the Acoin draw that I've been talking about for the last 2 months, that bonus entry persists until you win. So if you have, let's say, 3 bonus entries, you get 3 bonus entries into every draw until you win. Those bonus entries are huge. 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 We're almost done. Gambling is bad. And long-term, gambling is a losing strategy. Guaranteeing the win and hoping for a discount, if the value is there, is a winning strategy. For anyone that insists that they're lucky, and they always win in 1 to 2 spins, and you'll see this in the chat all the time, they're probably misremembering or straight up fibbing. Shame on them for fibbing. If they actually are lucky and they get a 1% or a 5% win in 1 to 2 spins all the time, why aren't they rolling in bank in Las Vegas? Mad stacks of flapjacks, or whatever the cool kids say. Turn $5 into Lambo money. Okay, final note about long-term success. The analysis being worst case scenario, if the value is there and it's worst case scenario, then it's a no-brainer and you should do it. Right? Now, over time, your win rate should settle in around 10 spins for the fair, the most fair of the, actually the only fair one. But that's over many crate rushes, not 1 or 2 or 3. We're talking dozens, hundreds, maybe millions of crate rushes. Now, given an average of 1 free spin, you're going to, in the long run, and if you can afford to guarantee winning the item, get it for paying 9 spins. 358 coins is approximately 3,158 coins. Even with the cost to rank up and credits, this is still, usually, much better value than buying the item at rank 5 in Gear Hub. Now, sometimes you don't really want the item to be above rank 4. Especially if you're a mid-game player. But one thing that I've wondered for a few months now, with how well-priced gear the crate rush events are, was this a stealth legendary repricing? It kind of was, wasn't it? W plarium. I'll let that one sink in. Okay, that's it for today. Make sure to do that math homework for bonus entry. Please like, share, subscribe. Lambo me. Opa.